Welcome to the Matrix Green Pill podcast, where we uncover the amazing journeys of entrepreneurs, visionaries, and adventurers who challenge the norm and inspire us to see the world differently. I'm your host, Hilmarie Hutchison, and today we have a truly fascinating guest, someone who left behind financial success in real estate to embrace the wisdom of nature and silence. Arno Gazo is the founder of Away Expedition and the creator of immersive desert journeys and the Silent Box. His work blends adventure, mindfulness, and self discovery, helping others reconnect with themselves and the universe. Today, we'll explore his personal journey, the power of silent walking journeys, and how disconnecting from mental chatter can bring clarity and peace. Arno, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Hilmarie.
To start off, can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you ended up here in the UAE?
My name is Arno. I was born in France, in Strasbourg, next to Germany. At a young age, I knew I wanted to live abroad. I wanted to expand. And that's why I chose the UAE. To me, it was a door to the world. Now in the UAE, I connect people with nature, as you said, to help them feel calmer, clearer, and more alive. And I want to thank you, Hilmarie, and your audience as well, to be here, to be curious, and to be willing to learn from others. So I truly appreciate your curiosity today.
I love having you here, and I'm so looking forward to this conversation. I like how you said that even at a young age, you had this curiosity, this wanting to live abroad, which is quite unique because most people prefer to stay close to home. It's often out of necessity that people travel and live in other countries. There's not that many people that have this yearning from a young age to try an adventure or to live away from their roots or from what they actually know. So that makes you quite unique. As I mentioned in the intro, you built a successful real estate business and then you decided to leave it all behind to create immersive desert journeys. You clearly reached the financial freedom that many people strive for, but instead of just settling into comfort, you chose to start over. What did you begin to discover once you let go of everything else?
In fact, at that time, I didn't know what was beyond money, achievements, and numbers. And so I learned to discover what's beyond these things by going into a journey of letting go. And I was open to whatever would come. So I unlearned all these business principles. I jumped into the unknown with an empty cup and I didn't know what I would find. Instead, I experienced other ways to live. And just by tasting this reality, it was impossible to be okay with playing the rat race. So my vision of success went from numbers, the achievement, to energy. So now I'd rather invest in someone that vibrates good energy and inspires communities instead of someone making millions selling weapons. So that realization became the seed of Away Expedition.
Incredible. Such a huge shift from being in one place where you're making money and striving for that, and then coming to that realization that things needed to be different for you, and then making that huge shift into something so different. Can you tell our audience a little bit about immersive desert journeys?
When we go in the desert, we find an antidote. And this antidote is the ability to cope with the challenges by accepting reality as it is. You can't escape, like in life. So, what are you going to do? Be angry, sad, and depressed because it's too hot? Or just center yourself, observe, and accept reality as it is? Then we find some realization there. Nature is a wonderful teacher. When we learn to cope with nature, this is like learning to cope with our own mind. And mastering living in these environments, which are tough, equals mastering our own mind.
So, what I'd like to ask you to explain to our audience is how does immersive desert journeys work? Just so that we understand, is it all just one-on-one that you take somebody, they come with you on a journey into the desert, or do you take groups of people? How long do you go for? Can you explain a little bit about that for us?
Immersive desert journey is a one-on-one journey happening in a secluded place next to Saudi Arabia. And we go for 24 hours alone in the desert without electronics, without phones, without car. We go through a process that I have designed.
So, as you mentioned, you guide people through the one on one immersive desert journey. And then you also mentioned the desert being a teacher. What makes silence and nature, especially the desert, such a powerful teacher?
It comes back to what I was saying before. In the desert, when you're by yourself and the challenges are in front of you, if you cannot accept reality as it is, you're going to create your own suffering. So there is a point where you just surrender. You cannot escape. So instead of being angry, sad, or depressed because of the situation, we learn to center ourselves, observe, and accept reality as it is. And then the immersion is, and the more we surrender.
Really, really interesting. You mentioned there that you go for the 24 hours without phones, without technology. You spend a whole day without anything, with not even talking, no watches, no clocks, no phones. What does silence reveal that constant stimulation and noise keep us from seeing?
Yes, so there is a famous quote that you must maybe have heard before, which is from Rumi: the quieter I am and the more I can hear. And so the deepest revelations takes grounding, like being able to observe the breath or even being connected to our own body sensations. And you know, Hilmari, you can try right now. Just observe your thoughts. What are your thoughts in this moment? Feel your breath, recognize it, observe how you're breathing, if it's through the nose, through the mouth, which nostril. This grounding is the gate to the inner learning we can get.
That's amazing. Just do that, even that small session you just did there to say, slow down, feel your breath, feel your thoughts. How are you breathing? It actually just slows you down. It actually just is like a calming feeling just in those few seconds of being aware of how you're feeling, because we don't think about that.
Yeah.
You often remind people that their own journey matters, that awareness is the first step to real transformation. And you sort of showed that now with that little exercise we just did. Why do you think so many of us struggle to pause, to listen, and to reconnect with that inner truth?
In order to break through, I'd suggest that you try something you've never done before with the intention of just being. It's easy. You can go into nature, sleep there, and then when you come back to the office, you will have so much more insight. That's the power of being aware. And that's what I help people do.
So they go into the desert with the intention of just being. And that is a transformative experience. So you almost see things with new eyes. You see things from a different perspective when you've taken that time away from the noise, from all the chatter and the clutter around us, to sort of realize the awareness around us. Very interesting. You've also said that when we live in harmony with nature, we naturally act from love rather than greed. How can awareness and connection with nature help us live and work with more integrity?
If you are in harmony with nature, you wouldn't resort to promoting chaos. One would do what he does out of love and not out of greed to be someone, for example. You can look inside and ask yourself, how many things do you do every day to keep up with the Jones?
So, by being more self aware and being more in harmony with nature, we stop trying to pretend to be something that we're not and stop keeping up appearances. So, that helps us to be more authentic people with more integrity. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, we tune to another channel, let's say, the channel of the inner truth, not the truth that someone is imposing on us.
You're so right, because so often, because of social media, because of watching people on TikTok and Instagram and all these places, we start putting their lives as the goal instead of just knowing who we are and what's actually important to us. We're trying to sort of live up to the standards that they're setting for us. So I can see the benefit of getting away from that, clearing your mind from that, and being more at harmony with nature. In a world full of opinions and outside influences, how can people begin to reconnect with their own intuition, that quiet voice inside that we often ignore?
Before, for me, it would come from outside. And now, the greatest teacher I found is silence and nature. It taught me to find truth within, to listen to what I've not been able to hear because of the opinions of others. We might call this intuition.
We live in an age of noise, speed, and endless distraction, as you've already mentioned. Why do you think it's so hard today for people to find inner peace? And how can nature help us realign?
Do you notice that we have a habit of being preoccupied, always busy and a slave to our mind? We can take a minute and just slow down and we see our own actions and how many of the things we do is because of our mind chatter. And there is a famous saying, less is more. If less is more, would we choose to observe our thoughts rather than react to them? And to me, one of the reasons that illnesses happen is because of this inability to connect with the essence and find alignment.
So true that about less being more. I also liked your quote earlier that you said, the quieter I am, the more I can hear. Of course, the ideal way to connect with nature, to slow down, to create that awareness is to go into the desert, into a quiet space, to really benefit and to really get back to being with nature. But it's not always practical. It's not always possible to do that. And you have found a way to bring the power of nature into the city through the silent box. Can you tell us what it is and what people experience inside the silent box?
Imagine you're in an exhibition or a mall. It's very noisy outside, and you see this silent box. So you choose to go for your journey, you step in, and the scent of forest fills your mind quiet within seconds. And then you go through a 6-minute nature inspired story. You have a headphone, you hear nothing else than nature and the story. And in this box, no one can see you. And the only images you see come from your own imagination. So someone had claustrophobia. He went into the silent box. After 2 minutes, he wanted to stop and he decided to stay, to stick with the story. At the end of the 6 minutes, we shared about his feelings and how it went. And you know what? He went through this fear by staying in the silent box.
Wow, that's incredible. So even somebody with claustrophobia can benefit from this kind of immersive experiences. How do these two worlds, the desert journey and the silent box, complement each other? Can a few minutes in the silent box really open the same awareness people find in a 24-hour desert experience?
So both help people transcend their fears and reconnect with their intuition, but one involves more commitment than the other. One opens more doors to the inner world because it's longer and it's more immersive. So when you go to the desert, you have more insights, you have more time there, and automatically you gain more self awareness.
You are saying that the longer 24-hour immersive experience in the desert will have the bigger impact.
Of course.
For people listening who want to bring this experience of the silent box to their company, their event, or space, how can they get the silent box? How does that work?
So, Hilmari, for getting the silent box, we operate on a renting model. First, in terms of size, this is 3 by 3 meters. It's an immersive space that we can install inside offices, exhibitions, malls, even hotels. When we go there, we call them activations. They are short, powerful experiences that help people relax, recharge, and realign in just few minutes. Then we have different stories inside. They can choose between desert, ocean, forest, and we bring everything, the light, the scent, the sound system. You just need to bring the people that can experience it. So it's a beautiful way for companies to give something meaningful, a moment of peace, right in the middle of the noise.
That sounds like a fantastic solution, a fantastic opportunity, as you say, for companies to give the employees a place to go where they can unplug from everything for a short journey and be refreshed, have that self-awareness in a short time so they don't have to go out to the desert for the 24 hours, but right there locally they can experience something so incredible. It's a fantastic solution that you have decided to bring the silent box, to create the silent box, to create a solution so that people who might not be able to go out to the desert still have the opportunity to have a small taste of what it's like to be on that journey. It's a fantastic solution. I love that you've come up with this idea. It sounds excellent. Many entrepreneurs and high achievers struggle with slowing down. What advice would you give to someone who wants to embrace mindfulness but feels overwhelmed by their daily responsibilities?
First, I would take microactions to foster self awareness or even being grateful for life. It doesn't have to be big. If possible, it should be integrated in an existing routine. Also, it should be accessible in the nearby environment. For example, that's the intent of the silent box in offices, easily accessible by employees so they can experience it without much effort. And second, which is even more important to me, I set a big goal, like a dream, the dream of joining a transformative experience, like a long, immersive journey in nature, or even long 10-day silent retreats. This is not easy because it requires commitment, but it's really a game changer. As we say, every journey starts with one step, right?
Absolutely. I love how you also said take micro actions. It does not have to be huge, big steps, huge, big things, but find those small opportunities to show gratitude, to foster self awareness. I think that's really excellent advice. Even for somebody who is super busy, they can be intentional about finding those micro moments to take small actions for self awareness and for quiet. Now we have come to the segment of our show where I will ask you some rapid fire questions, our version of a game show. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
If you could take a silent journey anywhere in the world, where would it be?
It's quite funny because I always said the location doesn't matter. I don't have any answer to this question because the journey is an inner journey. Wherever you are going to be, doesn't matter.
What is the most powerful lesson nature has taught you?
To surrender, to let go, to accept.
Lovely. Do you have one book or spiritual teaching that has deeply influenced you?
A shift in the way I perceived life. It's the Vipassana course I've done back in the past.
If you could invite one person, living or dead, to join you on a silent walk, who would it be?
It would be someone that has a lot of influence, like Elon Musk, for example.
That's a very interesting choice. How would you describe your life philosophy?
I connect with nature and there I realign, I find peace and I help people find peace there. So the philosophy is really to live in harmony with nature. What I call nature might be the universe or God or whatever words for other people.
Well, thank you for playing along. That was easy enough. Now, I would like to ask you our signature question about your green pill moment. What was your green pill moment, the action or event that was the turning point for you or your career?
At 18 years old, I was an intern in an adventure travel agency in Montreal. And there I was doing really useless tasks. That was boring. I wanted to be outdoor, to discover the world. And I wondered, how can I never experience this again? This was my first green pill moment. And if you want, I can even expand on that. After that, I started to imagine the life I dreamed of. So I read lots of books, started to work on my dreams. I was coming from a place of fear and aversion. I wanted freedom with a big F, freedom to do what I wanted. After that, for 5 years, I hustled and I built a real estate company. I was always looking forward to accomplish the next milestone. So one day I'd be free. And this day arrived when I hit the goal that I wrote down years before to be financially free. From this moment, this was my second green pill moment.
Amazing. And this is why you then made the shift.
Yes.
Arno, your journey is truly inspiring. And the work that you're doing to help people reconnect with themselves is so needed in today's world. I love that you remind us that silence isn't emptiness, It's space for clarity, for truth, and for real freedom. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your experiences with me today. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about joining one of your silent journeys or experiencing the silent box?
So before to say goodbye, I would like to thank you, Hilmari, for having me here on the show, for your curiosity and the curiosity of the listeners as well. So if this conversation sparked something in you and the audience, you can learn more or reach me at awayexpedition.com or on LinkedIn and Instagram with the handle Arno Gazo, ARNOGAZO.
Social media as well is all linked on your website, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here today. I love the solutions that you've created, whether it's an immersive desert journey for 24 hours or a 6-minute immersive moment inside the silent box. Both experiences lead to the same place, back to yourself. I absolutely love what you're doing with that. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Matrix Green Pill podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, and stay connected for more inspiring stories. Until next time, take a moment for yourself, embrace the silence, and find your path to self-discovery. Remember, the quieter you are, the more you can hear.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.